భద్రాద్రి గౌతమి అదిగో చూడండి. శ్రీకరముగ శ్రీరామదాసుని కాకటముగ బ్రోచే ప్రభువాసము ఇదిగో భద్రాద్రి గౌతమి అదిగో చూడండి, అదిగో చూడండి, అదిగో చూడండి.
Hari Om and a very good evening to all. We are happy to announce that Wisdom Foundation will soon be launching an exclusive online lecture series for audiences in the US. You may like to inform your friends and family about this unmissable opportunity. Guruji will be taking the essence from various scriptural texts in the series Eternal Wisdom, A Manual to Life. We request you to send the name, email ID, place in the US to us. I repeat, name, email ID, and the place in the US to us. You could reach out to Raji at 98480-63131, 98480-63131, or Jaya at 80-085-72525, 80-085-72525, or post the details on the Satsang group. We will keep you updated. Before Guruji transports us into the eternal wisdom of BHAJA Govindam, there is one announcement. We will be muting all the mics. If anyone would like to say something, please raise your hand, or you could type in the chat box. Also, if you would opt for active speaker mode, you would be able to view Guruji on the entire screen. Hari Om.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We shall be chanting Bhaja Govindam verses 21 to 30, but we will start with the first verse. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Samprapte San Nihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane. Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani Jathare Shayanam, Iha Samsare Bahudustare, Kripaya Pare Pahi Murare. Ratyacharpata Virachita Kanthaha Punya Punyavi Varjita Panthaha Yogi Yogani Yojita Cheto Ramate Balon Matavadeva. Kastvam koham kuta ayataha kame janani ko me tataha iti paribhavaya sarvamasaram vishwam tyaktva swapna vicharam. Tvayi mayi chanya traiko vishnuhu vyartham kopyasi mayi yasahishnuhu bhava samachittaha sarvatra tvam vanchasya chira dhyadi vishnu tvam. Shatrau mitre putre bandhau ma kuru yatnam vigraha sandhau sarvasmin api पश्यात्मानं सर्वत्रोत्सृज भेदाज्ञानम् कामं क्रोधं लोभं मोहं त्यक्त्वात्मानं पश्यति सोऽहम् आत्मज्ञानविहीना मूढा ते पच्यन्ते नरकनिगूढा गेयं गीता नाम सहस्रं ध्येयं श्रीपति रूपमजस्रं नेयं सज्जन संघे चेत्तं देयं दीनज नाय च वेत्तम् सुखतः क्रियते रामाभोगः पश्चादन्तशरीरे रोगः यद्यपि लोके मरणं शरणं तदपि न मुञ्चति पापाचरणम् अर्थमनर्थं भावय नित्यं नास्ति ततः सुख लेश सत्यं पुत्रादपि धन भाजां भीतिः सर्वत्रैषा विहिता रीतिः प्राणायामं प्रत्याहारं नित्यानित्यविवेकविचारं जाप्य समेत समाधिविधानं कुर्ववधानं महदवधानम् गुरुचरणाम्बुज निर्भरभक्तः संसाराद्यचिराद्भवमुक्तः सेन्द्रियमानस नियमादेवं द्रक्ष्यसि निजहृदयस्थं देवम् भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते संप्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले नहि रक्षति दुःकृत्करणे नहि रक्षति दुःकृत्करणे नहि रक्षति दुःकृत्करणे. Just Hari Om, everyone. Good to see you all. The last we did was the 24th verse. Tvayi mayi chanyat traiko Vishnu vyartham kupyasi maya sahishnu. Where he said, in you, in me, elsewhere pervades the one reality Vishnu. Tvayi, in me, mayi, in you, anyatra, everywhere, is the one reality Vishnu. Being impatient, you are angry with me and in vain. Bhava samachittaha sarvatratvam vanchasya chiradyadhi vishnutvam. Make your mind equanimous at all times if you are keen to attain that state of Vishnu. In you, in me, and everywhere pervades the Vishnu. Now, Shankaracharya, as you know, heads the the Shaivite movement. And here he says, in you, in me, everywhere. He doesn't say Shiva, he says Vishnu. So there is no difference whether you worship Vishnu or whether you worship Shiva. It really doesn't matter what you worship. The God is singular. Brahman is one. The reality is one. The truth is one. You may call it whatever name you want, but that consciousness, that reality is one and the same. Now, I don't want to slip into that, but why do we find there are various gods and goddesses in Hindu religion, the Hindu pantheon? Why are there so many gods and goddesses? That perhaps we'll take it up another day. But all we got to understand that there is only one God. Please don't get caught up in the names and forms. In the process of identifying with a name and a form, you are developing an otherness or a hatred for the other. That should not be the objective. So he says, in you and me and elsewhere, there pervades the one reality. So the truth is everywhere. God is everywhere. It's just that you and I don't have the eyes to see. We don't have the capacity to see. We don't have the perception. So we only identify God, we only identify divinity in certain areas, in certain realms. Beyond that, we are not able to see God everywhere. There was a very wise man, a very celebrated Swami, but he was so down to earth. He used to find shelter in a temple. He used to be very simple, modest man. He used to live in a premise of a temple. And the temple authorities understood the greatness of that man, and they allowed him to make the temple his home, his abode. So when the temple doors closed, he was not let out of the temple. He was allowed to be in the premises of the temple. Because during the day, many people used to seek his wise counsel, listen to his wise words, and everybody were blessed. So they were happy that a man of his wisdom was there. One morning, the temple pujari comes in a little early. And for some reason, the Swami didn't get up that morning a little early. Usually he gets up very early. At 3:30, 4, he's up. But for some reason, he was sleeping till 5, 5:30. So when the pujari came in, unlocked the doors, and to his surprise, he was so lost in his sleep that his feet was pointing towards the Garbhadwara, which is the sanctum sanctorum, right on the front of the temple, where the deity is there. The main temple door where the deity is placed, his feet was pointing towards. And as you know, in our culture, you don't point your feet towards anything auspicious, much less to a place of worship. So he found it very disrespectful by the Swami. He didn't do much then, but he quietly raised an alarm about it to the committee, and there was a huge hoo-ha. And the story goes, people came up to him and said, how could you do that? How could you be so disrespectful? How can you have that kind of no respect or devotion or bhavana towards the Lord? You're pointing your feet to him. To which he said, can you please tell me where should I point? Because can you tell me a place where he isn't? You people are only seeing the Lord position in the sanctum sanctorum. But can you tell me a place where there isn't Lord? Then I'll point my feet. Then he said, what are you talking? It looks like arrogance has got into you and you don't seem to disrespect our words. And just to convey this message, he stretched his leg out. As he was talking to them, he stretched his leg out. And right in front of him, there was a linga. The deity appeared. Then for a moment, they couldn't understand. And then he turned his leg other side, another linga appeared. And my God, and the entire devotees, the temple committee, everybody were completely blown away by what that man was trying to convey. Where isn't there that God or reality or the Vishnu, as he says? It is only that you and I don't have the eyes to see. Therefore, he says, in you, in me, elsewhere pervades the one reality. But when this truth, this common known truth, and what is the common truth that is known to all of us? We are all so well informed, we are so well acquainted with this knowledge that this simple truth that God is all pervading, you get very impatient in listening this truth. If it were to come to you, no, I have heard it, I know what that means. Please, can you please tell me something else? So perhaps there was such a reaction by one or two students when that phrase was said that Lord is everywhere, in you, in me, is there and everywhere. Perhaps there was kind of a reaction from people then that they became impatient to the truth. Now, if you did catch a note I mentioned last when we were concluding last week, that there is always an end or a point of saturation to information or intellectual understanding. Now, I request you to please bear this in mind, because you're all drawn to this knowledge. You're all intellectuals. We're all seeking the path of jnanam. But jnanam is not measured by your information content. It's not how much information you have gathered during the course of your sadhana. It is not study of the scriptural truths that measures your quotient of jnanam or wisdom. And if one who goes through that exercise of merely acquiring information, that journey is going to end very soon. They are interested in voluminous literature. If you ask me, in fact, I don't know who said that, but a very profound thinker, I can't recall who said that, but please forgive me for that, but a beautiful phrase he says. Somebody asked him, was he a voracious reader? He said, no, sir, I am not a voracious reader, because if I was a voracious reader as others, I would have been as ignoramus as others. If I was an voracious reader as others, I would have been as ignoramus as others. Some great thinker said that. I don't know anyone have heard this, but it doesn't strike a chord. Who said that? What that means is, just by being a vast reader who has had access to knowledge from various sources doesn't make you necessarily wise. In his words, he says, you could be a voracious reader, but you are a ignoramus, means you are an ignorant person. It doesn't measure in that wisdom. Now, if you want to ask me, so therefore, what is that measuring tool of jnanam or wisdom? That measuring tool of one who is endowed with jnanam, that measuring tool is nitya, anitya, viveka, vicharam. It is this, if you are able to strike a chord with, you got it. Now, what is this? Nitya is eternal. Anitya is ephemeral. Viveka is discrimination. Vicharam is thought. Is your intellect able to discriminate between that which is passing, ephemeral, not worth it, vis-a-vis the eternal truth? Nitya, anitya, viveka. Viveka is that discrimination. Can you clearly distinguish between that which is passing, that which is truth, which is eternal? And that differentiation between Nitya and Anitya, Vicharam, is a constant thought on that distinction. That is Jnanam. That is wisdom. Rest all is paraphernalia. Rest all is mere words and words and words, empty words. Like in Hamlet. Yes, it is Hamlet. Hamlet was taking a book and reading, was walking on a platform in an aisle. He was actually walking up and down reading a book. His minister, Polonius, he walks into the room and he sees Polonius very engrossed. He didn't even notice the minister walking into the room. So when he was so engrossed in the book, obviously you ask, what is it that you're reading? So the Polonius, the minister, asks Hamlet, my lord, what readest thou? What are you reading? And in a very witty way, Hamlet answers back and says, words, words, words. I'm just reading words. Very, very poetically, philosophically, beautifully, he says, now what am I throwing at you? I would just say words, 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 just nothing but words. Now, please don't get lost in the flowery words. What you must be interested in the philosophical message. Don't get lost in the mere literary beauty. It is beautiful though, but don't get lost in it. Don't get carried away in it. So don't be impatient. So what should be your accent? If you remember, I said the accent, if you want to take one advice, please take this and don't come back to me. Whatever knowledge you have, whatever knowledge you already have is more than sufficient. You don't need any more knowledge. Stop attending wisdom lectures. Stop listening to me. Unsubscribe from our database. Please tell, do not disturb us. Because you don't need any more knowledge. That is not going to make you any more wise. What you need is to reflect. You need to churn. You need to introspect. You need to digest all the knowledge you already have. So remember the proportion I said. It must be 70% reflection, 30% knowledge. If you're not comfortable with it, okay, 60% reflection, 40% knowledge. I know we as Indians, we will always bargain. Can you please give little more? So because you are bargaining nature, I will say, okay, give you 40%, 10% more knowledge, but still do 60% reflection. And reflection is known as swadhyaya, self-study. You got to sit and lecture to yourself. No use listening to lectures of others. You must be ready to sit in front of a mirror and lecture to yourself. That is known as swadhyaya. It is adhyaya being done by swa, by oneself. That is swadhyaya. That gives you the wisdom. And what is that benefit of one who has wisdom? Now, please don't forget, I am still on verse 24. He starts by saying, Vishnu is there in you and me and everywhere. In order to see that, you must have that perception. So don't get distorted, don't get distracted, don't get annoyed because I'm speaking the familiar truth. He's appealing to us. And he says, what does he say? The next second half of the verse, he says, make your mind equanimous. Are you all able to hear me clearly? All right. I think I have just received a comment by Santosh Birla that he's not able to hear me. Sir, I think the audio is good for most, so kindly check at your end. It could be some kind of a setting. Somebody could type. Rajima, please, can you take to the chat box and tell him it is only at his end. Take to the chat box on the system and type it out for him, not on any other platform, because yes, okay. So audio is good, so please check. Great. So what was I saying? To keep your mind bhava samachittaha sarvatratvam vanchasya chirad yadi vishnutvam. Now, if you have that goal, if you are keen to attain that state of Vishnu, that state of reality, that state of consciousness, if you are genuinely interested in it, if you mean, as they say, I mean business, I am a go-getter, I want to get there, I don't want to compromise. It's not just a mere casual interest. I want to use this life as an opportunity to get to the self, which is the very purpose. Now, if you are a serious seeker, you will be interested in the advice is giving. What is the advice is giving? Make your mind equanimous at all times. Bhava samachittaha. Samachittaha means equanimous. Keep your mind equanimous sarvatra, everywhere, at all times. Now, well, that's the difficult thing to do, isn't it? Can any one of us claim to have achieved that objective of keeping the mind equanimous at all times? It's like when you go for a long holiday. Let's say you're going for a 3-month holiday overseas. You're going for a holiday and you have to lock your door, your house. And you ensure that you lock every window, you check every latch, you check every door, every avenue, every entry into the house is locked and double checked, isn't it? But let's say in the process you've forgotten the back door. Royal entry, you open, you have, a husband says, I've told the wife, wife says, I've told the husband, and then it's left, the back door is royal entry. No, it is not how well you have secured other entry points, but if one entry is enough for the house to be completely robbed, isn't it? So it's not the question of, oh, I am very quiet, I am very serene most of the times, but at the times, 1 or 2 times I go mad, and that is enough to destroy you. So it is not the question of how calm you are. The moment you have lost your peace, the moment you have lost your composure, the moment you have lost your serene state of mind, you are unfit to attain divinity. So the challenge is how to maintain that peace or composure, bhava samachittaha, throughout, in every aspect of life. Now, as I am talking of this, I'm reminded of the various contexts in the Shastras. There's many references. Now, you will find it is worth deliberating on this. It may consume the little time we have today, but it is certainly worth it. In fact, in the 12th chapter, I think it's the 12th chapter or the 13th chapter, one of those chapters, he says, sama dukkha sukham. The very same concept is brought out in those qualities as samaha. Samaha means balance in joy and sorrow, in pleasure and pain. In fact, it is the 12th chapter, 35 qualities of a devotee of God. To be precise, in the 12th chapter, he gives 35 qualities of a devotee of God. And there he says, what does he say? One who keeps his mind samaha, balanced in pleasure and pain. Now, what is pleasure and pain? Pleasure and pain. What is pleasure and pain? The moment I talk of pleasure and pain, what do you understand? Now, you got to be very street smart to answer this question. Not that you're all not. But when I say pleasure and pain, what do you understand? Use the chat box. It's perhaps easier for you all to convey. But if you want to speak, as we've said, draw the attention, draw my attention, or somebody would give you the opportunity to speak. Okay. When desires are met, you're happy. When desires are not met, you're unhappy. Yes. Pleasure and pain experience at the physical level. It are attributes of the mind. Happiness and sorrow is an emotional feeling of the mind. Pairs of opposites. That's a very nice answer. Sudhakar Garu says, state of mind, two sides of the same coin. That's a very nice point of view as well. In fact, when I say pleasure and pain, you will all understand and have to accept that these pleasure and pain are an integral part of life, isn't it? You and I have no choice but to go through the pleasure and pain, joy or sorrow, or whatever be the opposites, as somebody has said. All of us are subjected to it, isn't it? So it is, pleasure and pain is a procession of life. So when the procession of pleasure and pain and joy and sorrow come into our life, how should you deal with it? So how to keep yourself composed in and through the integral aspects of life of the opposites. So you will have, your day might begin with joy, or some days you begin with sorrow. Now you find out how frequent is the visitor. So is joy more frequent or sorrow more frequent? In some people, sorrow is more frequent. In some people, joy is more frequent. But joy comes, so your day begins with joy, and then the first few moments in the day is joy, 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 and suddenly sorrow comes. Some bad news come, or something comes and disturbs you. That joy, little joy you had, you lost the joy. And then again, sorrow, 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 sorrow. And suddenly, luckily, for a pleasant surprise, intercepted with joy. Then again, another couple of experiences of joy, sorrow. So your day is nothing but a procession of joy and sorrow. So when joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain are an integral part of life, you can't escape it, I can't escape it. But when we go through that, how should you handle it? What should be the attitude? How should you relate to it? The quality, he says, samam. You got to be the same. You got to be balanced in that sukha and dukkha, joy and sorrow. Now, what should be your attitude? Sir, I don't understand. Murthy Garu, you are speaking very high language. Huh? Can you please? I don't even know how to pronounce it. So please, I don't want to advertise my ignorance. Can you please say in a language which we all understand? I'm getting wonderful answers. They're saying, be a witness. Alka ji, looks like you're just sharing your answers privately to me. So I think if you change the setting and share with everyone, everybody can see your answers. So what Alka ji is saying is, treat both as transient. Murthy Garu is saying again, yeah, not being overjoyed with happiness or downcast with sorrow. But the usual part of life is where you jump with joy, you sink with sorrow. You get carried away with both these vicissitudes of life. It could be a passing breeze, or it could be a serious experience you go through. It could be a great tragedy or a great occasion to celebrate, or it could be a minor passing phase of your life, of an experience, but all seem to affect us, isn't it? So the only way you will be able to deal with these vicissitudes, the only way you will be able to handle the joy and sorrow is by understanding that they are temporal. They are only visitors. Don't give them a permanent residency. Only visiting visa. Like when you apply for a certain countries, they only give you visiting visa. You have to quit the country, get out of the country within a span of 3 weeks or a couple of months. You can't become a permanent resident. So don't make the joy a permanent resident in your life. The moment you make it a permanent resident, what would happen? When sorrow comes, you can't handle it. So what you and I need to cultivate is that spirit of being objective. Objective is nothing but, as you all have rightly said, be a sakshi, be a witness. Don't get carried away with the joy or sorrow. And if you are able to stand apart, you will actually see joy coming from a distance and coming, it's coming, it's gone, it's come, it's going, it's gone. And then you again see, oh, another joy is coming. It's come. Oh, this time it has not stayed for long. It's gone very quickly. You will be able to notice it exactly how it goes through the passage of life. So the inevitable facet of life is it is going to pass. Now, but the problem is you want to make it a permanence. And there you have lost your balance. And you lose, the moment you have lost it, you're not able to identify, you're not able to realize the truth. You're not able to realize the self within. Now, what are these? Now, they are, as you all are very well aware, it's worth mentioning, these are all known as the gunas. The gunas are known as the states of your own mind. Every human being has got these 3 states. Now, the question is, you got to ask, where does your mind belong to most of the time? Sattva is a state of equanimity. Sattva is a state of peace. Your mind is not fickle. Your mind is very calm. Naturally, it's calm. You don't need to do anything to keep it. It is very calm. A mind which is calm in nature, when it's left to itself, please mark my words, when it's left to itself, if the mind is calm, that state of mind is sattva. You don't have to do anything to keep it happy. Just by itself is very contented. It has no complaints. It doesn't get disturbed. There are no demands. There is no frustration. It doesn't complain. It is a very contented state of mind. Rajas is a state of mind when your mind is fickle. Your mind is agitated. Your mind has lost its charm. Your mind gets into a certain turmoil. Tamas is a state of mind when your mind is, what is tamas? A state of mind which is you should know what it is, because when you go into that stage, you should know, oh, I'm going through a tamasic state. In fact, the aggressive state of the mind is rajas, where the mind is very desirous. It's full of expectations. It is disappointed, it's agitated. Tamas is a state where the mind is inactive. Yes, quite a few people have said inaction, lethargic, indolent, or a state of mind which is clouded, confused, deluded state of mind is tamas. It is in its own realm. There is no clarity, confusion. A mind which is confused, a mind which is clouded, deluded, lethargic, indolent, sleep, just not bothered. That state of mind is tamas. Now, a mind which is agitated, it doesn't provide the atmosphere to recognize the self. An example is given. Let's say there is a beautiful placid lake, a lake which is just tucked away in a corner of a village, and crystal clear water. And you go and you just peep into the water, you can see your clear reflection, don't you? Because the water is clear. But let's say you take a stone and you throw into that pool of water, what would happen? instantly creates the ripples or the waves. And in the ripples of those waves that are created, can you see a reflection? You can't see a reflection. Only your vision gets blurred. When you want to see your vision, what do? You've got to let the water settle down. Give it some time. So when the water settles down, when the mind calms down, then the clarity of the intellect comes. So sattva, the sattvic state of mind, is very important in order to think. Here we are telling, in order to recognize the self, you need a mind which is equanimous. Now you understand the connection between knowledge, perception, and vision is directly proportional to the state of your mind. So only when your mind is calm, you can think clearly, you can think straight. So your emotions is very rational to conclude, logical to conclude. It is your emotions that cloud your intellectual clarity, isn't it? So it is your own emotions that disturb your ability to think clearly. Now you want to think clearly, you want to make the right choices, you want to see the truth, you want to realize the Vishnu within you. What's the way? The only way is you got to keep your mind calm. And how do you handle the mind? How do you prepare the mind to be calm? Understand that the joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, they are only visitations. They come and go. The world is not there just to cater to you. Understand that things will not happen the way you want it. And when things don't happen the way you want it, the way you like to happen, you are invariably agitated or affected. Therefore, another quality in the 12th chapter itself, he says, Tulya Ninda Stutihi. Tulya, he says, Tulya means you are again balanced in censure and praise. You're equal. Tulya means you're equal to somebody praising you or censuring you. What is censuring? Praising we understand. What is censuring? Yes, ma. The Sanskrit phrase which says is Tulya Ninda Stutihi. Tulya Ninda Stutihi. Tulya, as I've said, is equanimous to Ninda. Ninda means, even in Telugu you say Ninda, isn't it? Isn't it, Vijaya? Telugu also you say Ninda. The Sanskrit root is right. Ninda is censure or praise. Yes. Tulya equal to Ninda. Ninda is degrading. Somebody abuses you. Somebody criticizes you. Demeaning. Yes. For some reason, they have a very low opinion about you. Now, how can you have any say on that? Let's say one or two of you feel that I am fit for nothing. Now, do I have any say on that matter? Can I come and appeal to you, beg to you, please don't think that way, please, for God's sake, for my sake, please don't think that way. I feel, can I appeal to you? I can't. I only my karma. If I am not able to handle it, that will have a great toll on me. It hurts me very dearly. Look at them, how they're talking. They don't know what I am. They're talking so loosely. So the capacity to understand that the world is not going to function the way I want it. People may think alike, people may not think alike. Somebody may come to you and say, you are an idiot. You are a fit for nothing case. You are an nincompoop. Namaskaram. Thank you very much. I'm an idiot. You're also an idiot. Idiot, both become idiot. Idiot boxes are making too much noise going on. Then it is an entertainment for neighbors. Arey yaar. Now, if only you understand now, how much ever I say this, I need to apply this quality. So you can't ask the world to cater to you. Remember this. So when the world doesn't cater to me, you have to accept it. You must learn that the world doesn't cater to my likes and dislikes. However right you are, the world has a pattern of its own. So when we understood that you got to be equanimous to balance to pleasure and pain, what was the answer we gave? Understand it is passing, temporal, part and parcel of life. Be witness. Now, when we come to Tulya, Ninda, Astutihi, we are saying the world doesn't fit into our mental bracket. It doesn't cater to our likes and dislikes. Through that, you are able to keep your mind calm. Now, what you're getting is various tools, various applied philosophy, various measures, how you can address your mind, how to calm your mind. We already got two. And the third, in the 13th chapter, he says, Nitya cha samachittat, Nityam cha samachittatvam ishtanishthopapattishu. In the 13th chapter, 15th quality. Nityam cha samachittatvam ishtanishthopapattishu. Now you go back and refer to it. The earlier two were in the 12th chapter. This is in the 13th chapter. Again, we say constant balance of mind in desirable and undesirable. Nityam, Nityam again, balance. Nityam cha samachittatvam ishtanishthopapattishu. So constant balance of mind in desirable and undesirable. So you will be confronted in life. I don't have to tell you that there will be situations that are desirable. There will be situations that are undesirable. Now, how do you handle them? In fact, the entire complexity of life, the entire challenge of life is to fit into this ever-changing dynamic world. The world is in a constant flux of change. In fact, I learned that phrase today. One of my students made me little informed. So I got a little more informed thanks to one of my students. So he drilled this message into my mind, said, Guruji, the world is a flux of change. I said, yes, Ji. I kept saying, yes, yes, yes. In fact, another name for the world is change. You will not be wrong by replacing the world with change. Nothing in the world is static. Nothing. Everything is bound to go through change. In fact, the person who has attended the class is not the person who has left the class. You have changed. You like it or not. Hopefully for the better. But you have changed. Nothing is the same. So how do you deal with this change? How do you handle change? So again, you got to learn to assess the world very, very closely. Take that very clear measurement so that you will know exactly what it is. Now, when I left home, what was the state of my mind of my wife? Okay, she was in A state. Now, when I go back home, it is wrong and foolish on my thinking that she'll be in the same state. Let's say when I left home, she was smiling at me. And when I go back also, if I expect her to keep smiling at me, that is my foolish expectation. It has never happened. No, I don't mean to say that, but what I meant is, it does happen. It's a rarity. Let's say, but imagine, let's say she doesn't smile, she's frowning. Which many a time it happens. Don't get me seriously. I'm just an example. Let's say if she frowns. Now, I can't deal what she was when I left and expect her to greet me also the same way when I go back. Imagine, dinner time is by 7:15, 7:30. I would have my dinner, and kitchen closes very soon thereafter. This has been our kind of discipline. And let's say some work consumes me and I head home a little later. I know what I'll be facing, the fury of the home department. The home ministry will be furious. So I go prepared. Namaskaram. Is there any dinner for me today? Forgive me. My tone is very different because I need to have sapadu. I need to have food. Now I can't have the same tone other times like what I would have. Now you must be able to relate to the world. The world is not the same. Remember, if you're not able to relate to, you'll have this. Thank you, Ji. Don't worry. She will be smiling again. I'll have to take your advice very seriously. So here you are able to find and you know what is the interesting challenge you and I would have when we are dealing with this. If you look at it, as we mentioned it, the world is changing, isn't it? Now, is your mind static? Are your expectations static? Or are they also changing? Oh, I go back home and say, oh, again the same dinner. I wanted some variety. How last few days ago only you made the same thing? I get bored, sick and tired of the same food. I can't even go to a restaurant. So I want variety. So my mind also wants change. Now the world is changing. Your mind is changing. Now, how can these two changing factors find a compatibility? Is it possible? Is it possible to find a compatibility with these two changing factors? What is the likelihood? What is the likelihood? Very, very bleak. If you don't know how to create the compatibility between the two, you will struggle. In my, you know, what do you call this? Uh, uh, a male and a female socket. What is socket? What do you call that? I'm very bad at technical. Sethuramanji, what do you call a die? Hariji, what do you call that? I'm lost at the technical. In okay, you have a, a, a plug and a pin, no? They have to have compatibility. Sometimes when you're traveling, let's say you don't have a universal traveler pin, or you will struggle to, you can't charge your phone because there's no compatibility. So you got to have that converter or that which fits into that plug, isn't it? Yeah, plug and socket, correct. Now you know how ignorant I am. I am struggling. So there has to be that compatibility between you and the world, and the world, what is the truth is the world is not designed to cater to you and me alone. So you have to learn to understand that the world, what is the world? The world is the world I have created. I'm not talking of the world outside. The world I have created, which is my office, my staff, my family, my savings, my resources. They all don't function. They don't. I have made investments financially and saved it for a return. Is it under your control? How that behaves? What was the market before? What was the market now? It's not the same. Nothing is the same. So you will have to learn how to adapt to this change. And once you do that, you will come to the, don't forget the objective. What is the objective we're talking about? Objective is to keep your mind calm and equanimous. So when you rationalize this, you will be able to keep the mind calm. Otherwise, you will not be able to handle. And thereafter, I think there's an interesting comment Rajima gives, and thereafter the world is nothing but a projection of your mind. Whatever mind you have, that is what you project. It creates a chaotic mind, chaotic world, restless mind, restless world, peaceful mind, peaceful world, an organized mind, an organized world, hectic mind, hectic world, lazy mind, lazy world, sportive mind, a sportive world. And it's not wrong to say no mind, no world. And that is what is called perfection. Perfection is known as to reach a state of amana, amani bhava, as they say. The state of mindlessness is perfection. So you all throughout the Shastras, we have got this. And I remember mentioning it to you last week. In the 48th verse of chapter 2, he also says, what does he say? Samatvam yoga uchyate. Evenness of mind is yoga. One who is able to keep his mind calm and equanimous, he is one who is established in yoga. 48, chapter 2, verse 48. And the 50th verse, he says, yoga karmasu kaushalam. Dexterity of action is yoga. Skill in action is yoga. Now you see these two ingredients. Yoga, he says, as equanimous. Yoga, he says, as skill. Now, living also is a skill. Living also is an art. And that skill is to bring that aspect of efficiency and peace in one go, is what yoga is all about. Yoga doesn't mean you got to stand on your head when you have two legs to stand on. Please, you stand straight on your two legs. If you have to stand on your head also, please stand. Shirsasana also you do. I'm not saying no. But yoga is not just bending your limbs and filling your lungs with air. Please, that is not what yoga is. And that is not what these masters are saying. Yoga is to invoke that truth within you, to envision the truth within you. Yoga is nothing but, how can you describe yoga in what we have discussed now? It will be interesting to get your feedback. How would you describe yoga? It's not just, please don't get me wrong, it's not just filling your lungs with air and flexing your limbs. I'm sitting cross-legged, none of you can see. I can sit cross-legged without moving an inch for 4-5 hours. And thanks to the yoga, the physical exercises I've been doing, so it keeps my body fit, comfortable. The meditative posture, as we call it, Ardha Padmasana. So what is yoga? I'm getting, Shivaji says, balance, an equanimous mind, reunion with the self, mind, body and spirit and balance, the union of BMI, finding a way to calm down the mind. It's just not physical. Yes, certainly not physical, Shiva. Glad you say that. Identify with the self, calm mind, witnessing and not being affected, peaceful internally. In fact, all of you are thinking along with me. Yoga is nothing but a sattvic state of mind. To be able to keep your mind in sattva is yoga. That is the acid test of yoga. Whatever the world may put you through, you are in that state of mental equanimity and balance. And very famous words of the great Mahatma Gandhi. He says, stillness in action. That's the thing I'm saying. In fact, correct ma, Pinky ma, you're right when you say that. Mahatma Gandhi said, any fool can find Shanti in Shanti. A man of wisdom and character can find Shanti in Ashanti. That's the man of stuff. That's the man. So where should you be able to meditate? I want to challenge you all. Those who claim to meditate, I will challenge you all and say, meditate. Where should you meditate? I don't claim to meditate. I do not know. I'm very beginner. I'm a beginner in spiritual state. I don't meditate, nor can I claim to have conquered that state of meditation. It's a very high state. Anangila. I'm not there yet. But those who claim to meditate, where should you be able to meditate? Yeah, Gayatri ma, you want to say something? Yes, please. Can she be given the... Vijay, can you give her the access, please? Okay, whoever can give the access to Gayatri ma.
Yeah, I was mentioning that whoever are contemplating, not meditation, who are trying to contemplate to meditation, should be able to do at any situations, like any place rather, whether they are traveling in train or whether they are flying in flight or maybe the surroundings, whatever it is, they should be able to contemplate to meditate.
Correct. So the real acid test is not to, as Mahatma Gandhi said, and what you're rightly saying, to be able to meditate in any situation. I would say take you to in the din and roar of the marketplace. You must be able to meditate, keep your mind equanimous in the most demanding, challenging times. You must keep your balance when there is inaction. Now, most of us are in balance in inaction. Usually we are in balance in sleep, but the entire philosophy is to be able to find the balance in action. So the entire Vedanta boils down to the pause. Pause where? The difference between inaction and inaction is the pause between the two words. Inaction, inaction. I repeat, if you don't got it, either in inaction or in action. In action is the real philosophy, what we are talking about. Not in inaction means you just get away from the world, get into a beautiful meditative centers, get into an isolated place, you surrender your phone, you give away your belongings, you have nobody disturb you, nobody can call you, you don't talk to anyone, you don't do this, you don't do that, and sit quiet. Anybody can do that. That's not the real challenge. Come back to the marketplace, deal with the challenges of the world, keep your mind peaceful and calm. In spite of your wife, you are able to keep your mind calm. You are a Sthita Prajna. That is acid test. And to the ladies, in spite of your hysterical husband, you are able to keep your mind calm. You have achieved Sthita Prajna. So I am not favoring anybody here. Whether it's a nagging wife or a hysterical husband, both have to find the test. Is in spite of them, if you're able to keep your mind calm, you have achieved that state of perfection. So I think there were one or two questions which I couldn't get into. Let me see if I can go back to them a little earlier. I think Venkat Rahul, if I got you right, sir, you're asking, Guruji, Ninda and Stuti, in all instances I have seen before, Ninda Stuti is a single term. It is a way of expressing displeasure with a very close person. In this context, using these words in the same sense. In fact, it is the opposite, as I've said. Tulya Ninda Stuti. So it is the opposite. So you can't take it the same, I suppose. And again, you yourself have asked a little question earlier. Through self-reflection, how does one separate calmness from the tamasic mindset? I did passingly note it, and I got it back in the right context. What in effect you're asking, sir, is how do I differentiate between a tamasic state and a sattvic state? Through self-reflection, how does one separate the calmness? The calmness is an attribute of sattva from the state of tamas. Tamas, as I have said, is a state of lethargy, unconcerned, undisturbed. But that state of unconcerned, undisturbed arises out of a tamasic state. Now, please take a note, I'm repeating again. Tamasic state of mind is when your mind is unconcerned, reckless, or it is not disturbed by something. A tamasic mind also is not disturbed. It remains pretty calm, it's not bothered, not disturbed. Now, that attitude of not being disturbed arises out of ignorance. So, the root cause of a tamasic state is ignorance, is avidya. And the state of calmness, maturity, having risen above the fluctuations or the vicissitudes, that state of mind is arising out of vidya, out of knowledge. Now, if you want to know whether the state of your mind is arising out of tamas or sattva, what is that acid test? As we all would understand, what is the litmus test? If you want to know whether your state of mind is it because of sattva or tamas, how do you ascertain it? Now I'm answering your question through a question. Okay. Now, how do you know ninda stuti? How do you know that you are reached that state where you are not affected by the opposites? How do you know that? How do you know you are not affected by the praise and censure? Or, sir, somebody comes and insults you when you're sleeping. Are you affected by it? That's what my wife tells me. As she's talking to me, I go off to sleep. So after that, I don't hear whatever she said. So that I've learned that little knack. So I switch off. That switch off button is very active in me. And thereafter, whatever she says has not affected me because I'm not registered anything. So the question is, how do you differentiate between the state of mind? What is the litmus test? Balanced. Go to the marketplace. Correct. You will know whether you are really truly contented or not, truly peaceful or not. Balanced. Peace in action. Correct. Sattva is dynamic but calm. These are the words I'm looking at. The difference between inaction is indifferent vis-a-vis non-action. Non-action is what? Is perhaps sattva. That's what you mean. You're transactive. Yeah. You have gone one notch above. So the acid test is get yourself into action. The moment you get into action, you will find yourself, if you're a little ruffled, if you're a little disturbed, if you've lost your composure or control, means you are rajasic. The moment rajas comes in, that means you're not sattva. A tamasic person, the moment he gets into action, they get agitated. It's like a person who is driving, is a simple, there was a problem of having too many accidents in the city. So the head of the police department comes up with a brilliant idea. Too many accidents, people are dying, and a lot of cost, loss of resources, loss of life. So he comes up with an idea. To ensure that there are no accidents, we will reduce the speed from 70 to 20. Nobody should drive beyond 20 in the city. In the next 3 months, there were hardly any accidents. Now, is that a wise solution? The speed limit from 70 has become 20. The end result is there is no accidents, which they have achieved the result. They want everybody to be safe. People are driving at 70, 80, 100. They're having terrible accidents. So reduce the speed 20. Is that a solution to life? Now, this is the biggest blunder humanity is making. Now, I am not having any arrogance when I say that. I'm certainly taking an authoritative stance when I say this. The mistake of humanity is, can you say this? What is the mistake in the terms we are just discussing? What is the mistake people are doing, which is from 80 to 20? What is the mistake that's happening? Okay, can Tinkima, but can she be given the access to speak? Yes, ma.
I think where they lay down so many rules, it's external locus of control. So internal discipline is just not there. Only the danda works. Danda hai to karenge, nahi hai to jo karte raho. Like lockdown and no lockdown, similar.
Yeah. No, but you are talking with reference to the driving. But I'm talking with reference to where humanity is heading, with reference to the states of mind. See, because I'm still with, I think Venkat, who asked this question, how do you differentiate? I said the acid test is action. But where is humanity going wrong? Everybody wants peace and happiness, isn't it? Isn't that the terminus of life? Everybody wants peace, happiness, contentment, satisfaction. But we're not able to find. It's just like the solution. We all want to be safe on roads. So how to be finding safe on roads? Reduce the speed from.
I think it's lack of concern, lack of consideration. It's all about me.
All right. Okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, a few others are saying people stop acting when faced with stress. Correct, Gayatri Ma. From Rajas to Tamas. Correct. We are looking outside, not within. Very true. That is, in fact, the biggest concern. Humanity is not looking within. And the result of that is, so whenever action produces agitation, what people are doing, action today is producing agitation. So what are people doing? They are reducing the level of action to get the peace, happiness. Are you all with me? When the action goes high, the agitation also is increasing. So to get the level of happiness, what they're doing, they're reducing the action so that the agitation also reduces and little peace, happiness. By doing that, what they're doing, people are just slipping from rajas into tamas. Now, when people go into tamas, which is inaction, what is the price of inaction? Now, please think, what is the price humanity pays for inaction? When you're inactive, what happens? No, it is. Now, I request you all from next week onwards, please give yourself a name. So if somebody has typed that somebody is Apple, now I will say Apple is saying this. Then we'll say iPad is saying this. Then you say microphone is saying this. Then we'll say Google is saying this. So I have to please identify by a name, so that I'll have pleasure in saying your name. Now, whoever the Apple is, correct, stagnation. What is the price of inaction? Indolence, no progress. No problem, Dharima, perfect, that's fine. Stagnation. It's like you stop talking to each other when there is some tension. Absolutely, you can't look at each other. You go your west, I go east. You go north, I go south. There's complete friction. So it reflects in relationships. So the emotions go overboard and you get complete mess. It's a complete chaos within. As I think Alkaji said, nobody's looking within because it's all messed up. It's a chaos inside. So nobody is ever getting out of this vicious cycle of tamas and rajas. Nobody ever gets to sattva. Humanity at large, I'm talking. I'm not talking of you and me. I'm not talking of our continent. I'm not talking of a country, our locality, our city. I'm talking of humanity. Can you realize what potential we have here? People don't realize what is the beauty and grandeur of rising up to the level of sattva. People are acting with agitation to get the peace. They stop action, and the moment you stop action, you get little peace, but there is no production, there is no prosperity, you're not industrious, there is no wealth, there is no development, there is no advancement. The moment you want more wealth, advancement, progress, you find you have accidents. So all this knowledge is teaching us is how to go about living this life without having any mental accidents. You have a beautiful relationship with the world without any mental accidents. The result of that is you have a tulyaha, you have that samaha, you have that mental equanimity. Bhava samachittaha sarvatratvam vanchasya chira yadi vishnutvam. If you're able to keep that mind equanimous, where in and through that means of action, while you maintain that spirit of action, you find that calm, you have truly reached that meditative state. Your mind should be balanced in the peak of action, not by getting away from action. And that is the means of unfolding Vishnu. That is the means of getting to Vishnu. So please do not think peace as tamas. It is not tamas. Peace is a very dynamic state. And I'll give an example to convey all this. Can you just think? I'll give two examples. I want to give more, but let's say I'll limit to two. Can you conceive? I don't know how many of you ever got onto these bullet trains in Japan or in certain, even Korea and a few other countries. They have these trains that travel close to 400 to 450 kilometers an hour. Even perhaps, I think there are trains up to 500 kilometers an hour they travel. At that lightning speed you're traveling, and you wouldn't feel any disturbance. In the way I keep describing always, you wouldn't feel a ripple. If you put a glass of water on the table, you wouldn't see a ripple in your glass. That is perfection, where there is such dynamism, and yet there is that everlasting peace and bliss. This is sattva. Secondly, you are flying on an aircraft in its cruising altitude. It's not when your flight is taking off on the runway. When you're taking off on the runway, everything is rattling. You wonder, these fellows, whether they tighten the screws or not. All nuts and bolts, everything is rattling. Oh my God, am I going to survive this flight? And thereafter, once the flight takes off, everything becomes silent and then hits the cruising altitude. They are flying at 800, 900,000 kilometers an hour. They're flying at 40,000 square feet height. At that height, at that speed, you're cruising, and you actually slept so peacefully. You didn't even realize that you're actually flying and cruising at that height and that speed. That's perfection. That is dynamism, efficiency, yet that peace, composure, equanimity. Can you imagine you are sleeping flat bed? You have these first class. You are sleeping in your comfort and you're cruising at that altitude at 1,000 kilometers an hour speed. So you need to bring that inner technology to your own life, where you are dynamic, you're productive. At the same time, you find that peace. So peace and happiness should be found in the garb of action. You should be able to find that while you're active. And that is what this verse is saying. So even though he says you must find happiness, it must be found in action, not by getting away from it. All right? Please think over it. We will come back. If you have any questions, if you have any clarifications, I would request you all to send in your questions in advance. So before the class starts, I'll be more than happy to take up any questions from the text or any generic questions. Out of context, may not be of the context of the Bhaja Govindam, but any other scriptural question you have, we will take it up. But once the text starts, we will limit to the text itself. All right? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Om.